Let's see how to fill up the long-term capital gains on sale of equity shares or equity-oriented mutual fund that are taxable as per 112A. Now, in order to find whether the mutual fund you sold was an equity-oriented mutual fund or not, the quick way to find out is to look at the transaction statement when you sold that mutual fund. In case the securities transaction tax was charged while you sold off the mutual fund, then in such a case, that mutual fund would be an equity-oriented mutual fund. This is because STT, that is the securities transaction tax, is charged only on equity-oriented mutual funds at the time of sale. Thus, you can figure it out from the transaction statement itself. Now, in this video, we'll be covering the equity shares or the equity-oriented mutual funds that were purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018 and sold during the financial year 2024-25. The profits would be calculated in two different parts. The first one being where the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual fund was sold before the 23rd of July 2024, and the second part would be where it is sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024. Now, the reason why we'll have to calculate it in two separate parts is because the tax rates have changed with effect from 23rd of July 2024 on the long-term capital gains of equity shares. Since the tax rates have changed, we'll have to calculate profits in two separate parts. For this, we'll be needing the following details: the ISIN code, the name of the share or unit, the number of shares or the unit, the sales price per unit, the fair value of the unit as on the 31st of January 2018, and the cost price per unit. The ISIN code for shares and mutual funds would be available on the contract notes or the transaction statement at the time of purchase of such shares or mutual fund. Further, the name of the share or the unit will get auto-populated, or you will have to get it selected from the drop-down available there. In addition to that, we'll also be required to disclose the number of shares, the sale price per unit, and the cost price per unit. One different thing available here is the fair value as on the 31st of January 2018. Please note, the manner of calculation of the fair value has been dealt with in a separate video. The link to that video is mentioned in the comments section. You can watch it from there. So, in this table, we'll be filling up the details of the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual funds that were purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018 and sold before the 23rd of July 2024. Let's quickly see what we have it in our example. Perfect. Now we move on to the equity shares or equity-oriented mutual funds that were sold on or after the 23rd of July 2024. Now, one thing you can note here is the ISIN code mentioned in the first table and the second table are the same. The only difference being the date of their sale. In case it's sold before the 23rd of July 2024, it will be mentioned in the first table, and in case it's sold on or after 23rd of July 2024, it will be mentioned in the second table. Now let's quickly open the income tax offline utility for return filing. Once you pre-fill the data, you arrive at this page. Select the appropriate option and then click on Continue. Now, here you'll be required to select the appropriate schedules. Click on Income and make sure these two boxes are checked. In case not, check these boxes and then scroll to the bottom and then Continue. Skip questions. Now, once you arrive at this page, you'll have to first fill in the Part A of the General Information Schedule. It contains the personal information of the taxpayer, such as the name, address, bank account details, and one additional option to choose from the old tax regime or the new tax regime. Since it is a very basic schedule, I am skipping it in this video. Now once you fill in this schedule, you need to then move to the schedule 112A. Let's click on this. Click on add another. Now first we'll be filling the first table, that is the equity shares or equity oriented mutual funds that were sold before the 23rd of July 2024. Once we fill up that, we'll then start filling up the details of the second table, that is ones sold after the 23rd of July 2024. So let's start with the first table now. Now once you fill in both the tables and save it, scroll to the bottom and then scroll to the right. This is the total long-term capital gain that has been arrived at. Make a note of this figure somewhere and then click on confirm. Once you click on confirm, move to the capital gain schedule. Click on this. Here you can see the long-term capital gain has been auto-populated, which is fetching data from schedule 112A that we just filled up. Now what you need to do is scroll to the bottom, click on this. Now once you click on serial number F, you need to start filling in serial number 6 and 7 and split the details of the gains based on when it was earned. If it was earned up to 15th of June, mention it here. If it was earned between 16th of June to 15th of September, mention it here. And if later on, mention in this column. Once you fill in serial number F, make sure that the amount you arrive at here in this place matches with the amount of serial number C3. Once both these amounts match, click on confirm. So this is how you fill in the long-term capital gain on equity shares or equity-oriented mutual funds that have been purchased on or before the 31st of January 2018.